Great. So my name's Arthasiddhi. Just in case I haven't had a chance to introduce myself to any of you, I'm just one of the team here, but doing the talk tonight. And at the moment, we're exploring a particular theme called the 6 distinctive emphases of Triratna, which is rather technical sounding, but really what it's about is that Buddhism's a tradition, but it's a supple tradition. It's always changed forms as it's met new cultures, and it does that in order to help people grow. So in encountering the modern world, which is very, very different from the world in which most of the forms of Buddhism have emerged, it's changing. It's changing. And we're exploring in this theme the particular sort of the distinctive changes that seem to have been helpful, they've been practiced and explored by Triratna over the last sort of nearly 60 years. And we're just unfolding those for you to get your own sense of whether those help you to engage as a modern Westerner, a modern Westerner. A modern. Western's sort of, it's stepped out of geography really, hasn't it? And affected a lot of the world. So, yeah. So that's what we're exploring in essence. And Kate Raja started us off last week with exploring this aspect of non-sectarianism, which is all the more important for us in that if you walk into any shop that's selling books on Buddhism, you encounter several different traditions, don't you? How do we sort of make sense of that? We're in receipt of the whole Buddhist tradition now in the modern world in a way that's never happened to the same extent before. So that's a new thing, and we need to find a new approach. Kate Raj was talking about that new approach. Today I'm going to talk about the centrality of going for refuge, which may or may not mean anything to you, but hopefully by the end of the first half it might mean a little more to you. But really what it's getting at is this question of what primarily is the Buddhist life, or if you like, what is a Buddhist? What is a Buddhist? That's really what it's addressing. Which is a kind of key question, isn't it? But when I think of my own experience of contact with Buddhism, I first made contact with Buddhism by chance because somebody bought me a book on Buddhism. There was no internet then, so books it was. So it wasn't my choice, but it was a very good present, a very well chosen present. And I guess I was already looking for something. I felt a sort of hole, if you like, in my life, a hole of meaning, a sort of lack of meaning in my life. And I was kind of looking for that. I felt there was more to life. There was a meaning. I knew that because I'd experienced it, but it would come and it would go. And so I was looking for what might meet that, what might help me get clearer about what that was. So really I was looking to Buddhism for kind of guidance, actually, in how to go about life. And so was I a Buddhist doing that? Was I a Buddhist at that point? Funnily enough, I remember, I was in France at the time, I remember being approached by 2 Mormons on the bus, and I instantly said, I'm a Buddhist. Now that may have been something that I was thinking about, or I may have been trying to fend off the Mormons, I don't know. But I remember actually saying that back at the tender age of 19. However, I later got involved, went along to the Sheffield Buddhist Centre, and I've been practicing meditation and exploring Buddhism. Actually, I don't think I'd been to, maybe I'd been to one talk in that time. But after a bit, I started to recognized, oh gosh, I think I'm a Buddhist. And that was quite different from the previous sort of, I'm a Buddhist, kind of, I'm a Buddhist. It's difficult to describe. But I sort of recognise, gosh, that articulates more. It's funny, it's just what I've said, isn't it? But it articulates more fully what it means to me to be human. This is what life is about. It was expressing it more fully to me than I could have articulated it to myself. Do you see what I mean? So I sort of recognised in Buddhism something that was more me than the me that got me into the Buddhist centre. You see, it was a strange experience. At the same time, if you'd asked me what is a Buddhist, I don't know what I would have told you. I was not, still not clear about what a Buddhist was at that point. So was I a Buddhist or was I not a Buddhist? So there we are. Just to sort of start with a bit of personal experience of this question, because I think it's relevant in three ways. It's relevant for us because it helps us grow. So it's relevant at that sort of essential human level. We need to kind of be clear about what we're doing on the Buddhist path. What is a Buddhist? In order to grow, don't we? In order to know what to come back to when we feel maybe we've sort of strayed from what Buddhism is. Maybe you feel it, but you haven't strayed, for example. So we need a touchstone to help us grow. I think, secondly, it's important, this question, what is a Buddhist? It's important for how we relate to others. And I want to go into that more in the second half. I'll stay primarily with the first, the relevance to our own growth in the first half. But it's also important for making sense of the whole Buddhist tradition, just as Kaitaraja was unfolding. If you read about Buddhism, you encounter differences, don't you? And actually, different traditions will emphasize different things. If you read about Zen, often what gets emphasized is meditation. That's what being Buddhist is really about, getting on the cushion. If you have contact with Tibetan Buddhism, what is emphasized is initiation, tantric initiation. This is a simplification, but it's nonetheless recognizable in experience that the Tibetan Buddhism will sort of emphasize that. Theravadan Buddhism will emphasize monasticism. What the Buddhist life is really about is becoming a monk. So that leaves us with the question, well, what is a Buddhist? When there are these different things sort of being emphasized as sort of central to the Buddhist life, how does that sort of make sense? Are there just different Buddhists? Or is it possible to be a Buddhist? So interestingly, Bhante Sangharakshita, the founder of this movement, he identified it as monasticism. That was initially how he identified what a Buddhist was. He decided to become a monk, and he pursued that as what being a Buddhist is. But over the course of his life, this was a question for him, this kind of key question of what primarily is the Buddhist life about. And he came to, over the course of years actually, as in sort of 20 years or something, he came to recognize it to be going for refuge. Going for refuge is the central Buddhist act. So that's what I want to unfold a bit, because you get this question, what do we mean by refuge? And what are we going for refuge to? They're pretty key questions, aren't they, to unpick this phrase. And what I thought I'd do is actually just read from a lecture Sangharakshita gave back in the late 60s, early 70s about this. He says that the short answer of what we go for refuge to is one goes for refuge to the Buddha, the enlightened teacher, to the Dharma, or his teachings of the path leading to enlightenment, ethics, meditation, and wisdom being the sort of key formulation, and to the Sangha, the community of those progressing along the path in the direction of enlightenment. So those are the three refuges, or the three jewels that we just saluted. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya. But he goes on to sort of to kind of find the origins of this rather strange sounding phrase, going for refuge. He looks back into the tradition of people meeting the Buddha. So I thought that's what I would read, because it's beautifully written. It's better said than I could say it. So sometimes when reading the Buddhist scriptures, we get the impression that the Dharma is a matter of lists. But it certainly wasn't like that at the beginning. It was all fresh, all original, all creative. The Buddha would speak from the depths of his spiritual experience. He would expound the truth. He would show the way leading to enlightenment. And the person to whom he was speaking would be absolutely astounded and overwhelmed. In some cases, he might not be able to speak or to do more than stammer a few incoherent words. Something had been revealed to them. Something had burst upon them that was above and beyond their ordinary understanding. For an instant, at least, they had glimpsed the truth, and the experience had staggered them. Time and again, on occasions of this sort, the scriptures tell us that the person concerned exclaimed, "Excellent, Lord, excellent," as if one should set up again that which had been overthrown, or revealed that which had been hidden, or should disclose the road to someone that was astray, or should carry a lamp into darkness, saying, "They that have eyes will see." Even so has the truth been manifested by the Exalted One in many ways. He or she would feel deeply affected, deeply moved, deeply stirred, and sometimes there were external manifestations of this. Their hair might stand on end, they might even shed tears, or they might be seized by a violent fit of trembling. They would have a tremendous experience, an experience of illumination. They would have a tremendous sense of freedom, of emancipation, as though a great burden had been lifted from their back, or as though they'd been just suddenly let out of prison, or as though they could at last see their way. The questioner, the listener, would feel spiritually reborn, would feel like a new man or woman. Then, out of the depths of their gratitude, such a person would fervently exclaim, "To the Buddha for refuge I go, to the Dharma for refuge I go, to the Sangha for refuge I go." We can now see not only where the going for refuge has its origin, but also something of its tremendous spiritual significance. It is the heartfelt response of one's total being to the impact of the truth, the impact of reality. One commits oneself to the truth. One surrenders to the truth. One wants to devote one's whole life to the truth. The going for refuge represents our positive emotional reaction, in fact our total response to the spiritual ideal when that ideal is revealed to our spiritual vision. And he goes on to add that it's not just a response, it also means action. So you don't just accept the three refuges, you go for refuge. This action is a total, unqualified reorientation of your life, your existence, your striving in the direction of the three jewels. When you say, "I go for refuge," you are not only acknowledging that the three jewels are the most supremely valuable things in existence, you are also acting upon that acknowledgement. So there we are. That's quite clear, isn't it, the significance of it? And to what do we go for refuge? The Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, the teachings of the path that enable us to move towards the goal of enlightenment. And also the community of people moving in that direction. So that's what this central act of going for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, that's the central act of the Buddhist life. So it's clear, at least on paper, isn't it? Though, is it clear, what about in daily life? Is it clear what that means in daily life? I must admit, for me, it was not. When I became what we call a mitra, which is someone who recognizes that they are a Buddhist and is trying to put that into practice in this context, I found this definition of what the Buddhist life was all rather elusive. I wanted to know, things like going for refuge to the Buddha. I was aware that I hadn't thought about the Buddha all day, maybe all week. Am I still going for refuge to the Buddha if I'm not thinking about it? In fact, I didn't know who on earth the Buddha was, if I was honest, which I was at that time. Yeah, it was all just a bit elusive. I wanted something that I could pin down a bit more. What did I need to do to be a Buddhist? Was I doing it today? Was I not doing it today? So yeah, for me, it was still, whilst it was sort of clear on paper, in daily life, was I going for refuge? Was I not going for refuge? Was not. It was not clear to me. Yeah, why can we not just pin it down a little bit more? Maybe I'm just talking about myself here. Maybe it's not a problem for you. But why can we not just sort of pin it down a bit more? What's the problem actually with setting Buddhism as a lifestyle? Why can't we just say the Buddhist life is monastic? Okay, folks, we all have to become monks and nuns. Any responses? No? Everyone happy? Great. Okay, we'll proceed from that on that basis. Yeah. So there are problems, aren't there, to kind of pinning it down, and I want to sort of explore that a bit more. So going for refuge, what is distinctive about this way of talking about the Buddhist life? Well, it's kind of dynamic, isn't it? It's dynamic and it's sort of purposive. As Sangharakshita says, it's a response. So it means kind of movement, going for refuge. It means kind of movement. It's not just that you do it once. It's the character of the Buddhist life. You, in potential, can be doing it every moment of the day, going for refuge. So it's dynamic, momentary, sort of purposive. It's got this sense of kind of ongoing kind of purpose. To it. It's also individual. It's individual, isn't it? Going for refuge, this response, it's not something that you can do because someone told you to do it. It's a matter of the heart. Do you respond to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, or do you not? It's individual. It's necessarily individual. So these are some of the characteristics that are drawn out by this definition of the Buddhist life of going for refuge to the three jewels. So it's dynamic, it's individual. It needs to find expression in action, but actually it can't be reduced to action. We don't get just you need to meditate end of story, and then you're a Buddhist. You need to do this, you need to do that. It can't be reduced, actually, going for refuge, to just a set of actions. At the same time, it needs to find expression in action. So that's what this teaching, this way of talking about the Buddhist life, sort of emphasizes, that it's individual, that it needs to be expressed, it needs to find expression in action, it can't be reduced to that, and it's dynamic, momentary, purposive. So a little aphorism that I think starts to clarify why this is so important. It's a Sangharakshita aphorism. To be a Buddhist in name is worse than useless. A Buddhist should grow a little every day, should change a little every day. So really, I think that gets to the heart of why this is so crucial. That actually, if we say that what defines us as a Buddhist is belief, that you just need to believe this, or that you just need to do this practice, or live that lifestyle, or that you just need to gain this intellectual understanding, that is not going to ensure that you grow. In fact, it can actually prevent you from growing. And that's perhaps an example of that is the classic example of the scholar. That you could have a tremendous understanding of the Buddhist tradition and not be growing a little every day, changing a little every day. You can see how that's possible, can't you? And of course there are Buddhist scholars who are not Buddhists. So understanding isn't going to ensure the sort of vitality of your Buddhist life. It isn't going to ensure that you grow. But how about practice? Couldn't we just sort of pin it down to practice? That would be a pretty good thing, actually, wouldn't it? Developing a regular practice is a very good thing to develop. Something that we definitely encourage here. Oh, I've gone off my notes. One moment. Yeah. So sorry. So just going back a bit. Still, just sort of just asking this question of why formulate the Buddhist life in a way that's kind of slightly hard to pin down. It reminded me of a traditional way that the Dharma is taught about. The Buddha taught of the Dharma being the teaching of the Buddha, as, or sort of gaining a grasp of the Dharma as comparable to picking up a snake. So if you pick up a snake in the wrong place, you can be bitten. If you pick up a snake in the right place, you'll escape being bitten. And he said the Dharma is a bit like that. It sounds rather dramatic, doesn't it, that you might be bitten by picking up the Dharma wrong. But I think it means in the sense that you might sort of, your Dharma life will die. I don't think he's saying that you will literally die, but your spiritual life will die, actually, if you pick it up. And I think that is certainly true, that if you pick up Buddhism wrong, then actually you won't grow. So, yeah, I think that's what's being meant by, say having an intellectual grasp of the Dharma, good intellectual grasp of the Dharma. You're kind of picking up the Dharma in a particular way, and actually it might prevent you from growing. I was also thinking about kind of meditation practice. You could just sort of pin it down to meditation practice. Anyone who's tried to develop a regular meditation practice knows that that it can dry up, can't it? If you just say, okay, this is the Buddhist life, I just need to get on and meditate, your meditation practice might go well for a while, but after a bit it can dry up. So, yeah, these two aspects of kind of understanding and practices, just to be clear, I'm not dismissing them. They're crucial, but it's just that they can't ensure the vitality of going for refuge that the Buddhist life consists in. Yeah. So the example of meditation, when your practice dries up, what we encourage you to do is go on retreat. Go on retreat. And it's amazing, isn't it? You go on retreat and somehow your practice kind of rejuvenates. It rejuvenates. Sometimes that's because you've gained a better understanding of how to meditate. Sometimes that's because you gained a better understanding of the Buddhist, of the Dharma, the Buddhist teachings. But it can kind of rejuvenate. But one of the interesting things that can then happen is that you come off retreat and you can still remember the teachings that you heard, and you can still apply the techniques in your practice, but something has slipped through your fingers. Something important that you kind of got from the retreat has disappeared, has kind of slipped through your fingers. Have you ever had that sort of experience? Maybe not a few days after, but maybe after that. And you try and explain what it is to your Buddhist friends or whoever it is, and you find that the words somehow don't contain it. It's not actually sort of there in the words. You're doing the same thing in your meditation practice, but it's not actually there in the technique, the new technique, your improved understanding of the technique. But it was there on the retreat and you can't put your finger on it. Ever had that experience? I've had that regularly. And this is where a quality of going for refuge comes into view that we talk of through this very short aphorism: going for refuge is caught and not taught. Going for refuge is caught and not taught. When you're there on retreat, you catch going for refuge. So going for refuge, or the Buddhist life, or the Dharma, is caught and not taught. It seems like you can kind of understand it. You can read it and then understand it. Maybe you do catch something. It seems like you can take up the practices and try them out, which you can do, but there's something essential to what it means to be a Buddhist that can only be caught and not taught. And that's really why we emphasize getting on retreat, because it's on retreat that going for refuge is most likely to start to flow between us, actually. So, yeah, a very, very important clarification of the nature of what we're talking about with the Buddhist life, that it's caught and not taught. The going for refuge is kind of caught and not taught. And actually, my own reflections on this image of the Dharma as snake are that I think that social dimension is implicit in that image. I think the only time you're actually trying to pick up a snake, unless you're stupid, is when it's indoors. If it's outdoors, you can chase it away, can't you? You just get a stick and scare it off. Why would you be picking up a snake? Well, you're picking it up because it's indoors, because it's a danger to you, or probably to you and other people. So this is just my reflection, but I suspect that perhaps would have been evident to the Buddhists of that time, that there's somebody in the house at least who knows how to pick up snakes. Phewie, we're not all going to get bitten. That is sort of implicit in the metaphor. And that's really what's happening on retreat. There's somebody at least who knows how to pick up that snake, the snake of the Dharma, so that we all can sort of refresh our contact with the Buddhist life, with going for refuge. That person can help us all sort of refresh our contact. And in a way, what's being said is where we pick that up is going for refuge. That is what's primary. The practices, the teachings are all sort of secondary to that essentially individual act of responding to the three jewels and trying to put them into practice. That's where we actually pick up the Dharma. That's what's primary, that's what's central. So I hope that makes it slightly more clear the corrective nature of this teaching and why it's sort of emphasized. In part, in practice, that might just mean don't overlook the value of retreats in your Buddhist life. Great. So yeah, in sum, really, without appreciating the centrality of going for refuge and the nature of it, that it's caught and not taught, your Buddhist life can just dry up. Your Buddhist life will actually just dry up. And that's true on a kind of societal level, and that's true in our personal lives. So that's what's being pointed to. So, yeah, lastly, well, perhaps I'll just say it's very, very easy to overlook that. I regularly overlook that. I regularly sort of just getting on with my practice, and I've sort of lost touch with this elusive aspect of going for refuge. I think we are going to do that, so don't worry about doing that. The important thing is to notice, oh, there's something missing. Where can I invigorate that? How can I invigorate that? Do you see what I mean? In a way, retreat is the sort of best place. Dharma night is also trying to do that. It's trying to sort of invigorate. We're trying to get it flowing again. I'm trying to get it flowing again, and we're trying to get it flowing between us. So lastly, actually, I just want to finish by touching on this word refuge. It's a funny word, isn't it? How are the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, refuges? And the traditional answer is they're refuges from suffering. But suffering is a big word, or a big point that the word suffering doesn't do justice to, actually. I noticed one way Sangha actually talked about it is just the unreality of life. It's a refuge from the unreality of life. I quite like that. So we could, sometimes the three jewels are talked about not as refuges, but they're talked about as the central values of Buddhism. I think the problem with that word values is very easily our values can end up being sort of identity badges. You know, I'm a this person, I'm a Buddhist, I'm an inclusive person, and actually you sort of want to say when that comes up, we'll be the judge of that. Just by kind of wearing a badge doesn't actually make you a Buddhist, does it? So I think values is sort of a bit prone to that kind of identity badge sort of appropriation. I don't think it's fine, but it's a bit sort of prone to that, perhaps. Ideals, Sangha actually uses the word ideals, the three refuges as ideals. That's pretty good, isn't it? But it can be that ideals are all rather remote and all rather sort of separate from us, unattainable. And that's not what's being got at here either. I guess another way that these can be talked about, that I think is sort of crucial actually, is that they're sort of latencies. They're latent within human consciousness. Enlightenment is latent within human consciousness. The Dharma is latent within your consciousness. To realize the Dharma. Sangha is latent or potentiality within our consciousness. I think if you're not seeing it in that sort of way, actually you're not as yet seeing Buddhism. That they are potentialities. And I think it's in this way that they are refuges. We're sort of coming into contact with something that is real, a real potentiality within us, actually more real than the unreality of who we usually think we are and what we're about. A little story from my own experience of this, going back 2008, I was sort of reconsidering what I do in my life. I had a bit of a sabbatical, and I found myself on a month's meditation retreat, and I saw the guy teaching the meditation, and it sort of hit something for me. And actually, it wasn't what he was saying. It was what he was doing. It really sort of hit something. I couldn't sort of dismiss it. I couldn't let go of it. And I thought that's weird, because that's not something that I've ever thought of kind of doing, teaching meditation. In actual fact, who I thought I was and what I should be doing went off in a completely different direction. I couldn't sort of square the two at all, but I also couldn't drop it. I couldn't drop it, and I couldn't drop it actually looking back. I sort of since then have, in ways that I couldn't have predicted, ended up kind of learning to teach help people with meditation, and I love doing that, but I couldn't at the time. There's no way I could have anticipated the sequence of events or seen a way towards that, but I couldn't dismiss it, because my experience of it was that was more real than the story I had of who I was and what I should be doing. So I think actually we have this innate sense of kind of what's real and what's not so real. The story we sort of say about ourselves, often they're actually not really very real. But in the absence of being in contact with something real, something reliable, having an actual definite experience of that, we think they're real. Do you see what I mean? When you come into contact with that, when I came into contact with that, this is at a much lower level, but I could recognize it as reliable as my potential. I had some sort of potential there. That was kind of recognizable and tangible. So I think we have the capacity to do that. So it's in that sense, perhaps that evokes to some extent in what way the Buddha, the Dharma and the Sangha are sort of refuges, what way they are reliable to us. What I thought we could finish with doing is actually just kind of exploring this in meditation. Really this is kind of why we meditate. That's sort of latent within this consciousness and that consciousness and that consciousness, is this potential. It's just there, latent within consciousness. That's what the Buddha's saying. Yeah, so it's not external to us, it's not separate from us, but it is sort of beyond the unreality of who we think we are now. I thought kind of let's bring this a bit into experience. So I thought we could just for the remaining short time, just meditate a bit and actually just first of all, just tune in to our actual present moment experience. Just be receptive to our present moment experience. And then whatever's going on for us, let's just take that provisionally. that's just what's going on today. It might be completely different next week. So let's just not take that as anything too real. It's not really you. That can all kind of change. And with that, we can perhaps just have this kind of openness to the potential of consciousness. That consciousness, this consciousness, your consciousness, has within it, contains within it, this potential. Yeah, so we'll just see if we can explore those. And you might come into contact with something a bit more, you might not, doesn't matter. Let's just explore. So when you're ready, just settling. So just closing your eyes. And we're not going to change anything in our experience, we're just going to be receptive, receptively aware of this present moment experience. The sounds around us, shufflings and traffic. Cambridge at this moment of the evening, part of our experience right now. But also importantly, the sensations of the body. Just see if you can be receptive . Which means just feeling those sensations. So see if you can just feel what's going on in the belly. Receptively tuning in to that more and more. The rhythm of the rise and fall of your breath in the belly. And broadening that out to the heart center, or the center of the chest, the torso. Just feeling what's going on there in the body. And seeing if that brings you into contact with your mood and the current sort of weather of thought, of thinking. Let's see if you can just see that all as transitory, provisional. It's not really you. could all be completely different, probably will be different, even just tomorrow. But not rejecting it, just being receptively aware of it as provisional. And using the breath as an anchor in the belly and torso to anchor you into the present moment experience of what's going on for you. And so as you're doing this, just now seeing if you can be open to this moment of consciousness as containing potential, your potential, that's real, more real than the current transitory mental states. So we're not trying to do anything particularly, just this openness to the nature of consciousness. So being receptively aware of that too, as you breathe in and breathe out. And now just dropping any effort that you're making and just sitting completely still, allowing whatever's going on to go on.